وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُّدَّكِرٍ.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my brother and sister around the world. How are you today? I hope you are doing great. In this video, I'm gonna share with you top 10 tips for memorizing the entire Quran. These practical tips really helped me a lot when I was memorizing the Quran, so I'd like to share with you. Let's start with the first one. Number 1, having a good intention. Having a good intention, it's very important in Islam before we start anywhere. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in hadith, sahih, authentic hadith, إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى, which means action are according to their intention. So every man will have what he intended. For example, if the person just have intention to do anything, to memorize the Quran, to read Quran, to give it charity, to perform pilgrimage, Hajj or Umrah, or do anything for the sake of Allah and want some else, or for anything else, like for example for fame, for just be a good and religious man in front of people, Allah will not accept that from him and just ask him to give the people or something you did for him and ask him to give the reward. But we should just to be make our action have been accepted. We just did this action for the sake of Allah, not for one else, not for anything, just for the sake of Allah. So first, we should make sure we just memorize the Quran for the sake of Allah, to just get a reward, to get closer to Allah, to understand the message, to just go to Jannah or paradise, to just get closer to Allah, to follow Prophet Muhammad SAW, not for anything else. It's very important to understand that point, because if a person just do everything perfectly, smoothly, and just it will be amazing and just go everywhere and not for the sake of Allah, Allah will destroy this action and Allah will not accept it at all. So pay attention, please. Number 2, making a regular dua. Dua, it's very important before we start anything in our life. Memorizing Quran, it's not easy. It's a difficult journey, to be honest with you. So we need to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us barakah in our efforts, in our time to memorize the Quran. To make the journey, it's very easy for us. To give us ability to memorize it and just guide us to the best method for our smartness, for our character to memorize it. To guide us to a good teacher to help us to memorize the Quran. So we should just memorize, we should just ask Allah Almighty to help us ability to do it. And also we can just do a lot of things like dua, for example, to give it charity for people, for the sake of Allah, to help us to memorize it. So please making dua and regular dua in salah, in the last third of the night, everywhere and every time, to ask Allah to just give us ability to memorize the whole Quran and to make Quran easily for us. Allah said in the Quran, وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ.
وَلَقَدْ يَسَّرْنَا الْقُرْآنَ لِلذِّكْرِ فَهَلْ مِن مُدَّكِرٍ.
Which means Allah make Quran, it's so easy for a person who memorize it. But at the same time, we need to just ask Allah, give us ability to memorize it. Because I know just people graduate from medical college and mashallah, he or she just has a high of smartness, but he can't memorize the Quran and review it. SubhanAllah, it's a barakah from Allah. It's a blessing from Allah. So we should just ask Allah to give us ability to do it. Number 3, finding a good teacher. A good teacher, it's very important to help us to memorize the Quran properly. So Quran, it's not like an article or newspaper or novel stories or like in a book, because you can just read in a book easily. But with Quran, the matter is different even for Arabs. Why? Because let me just give you an example about it. Allah said in the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, the second surah in the Quran, Alif Lam Mim, and we should just read it individual letter. The same thing, the same shape in the letters, and the same word just start with Surah Al-Fil. Allah said ألم ترى كيف فعل ربك بأصحاب الفيل. So why we just read the word Alif Lam Mim, individual letter, and the second position in the Quran we read Alam Tara, Alam. So just same the same letter, they both have the same letter. What different with that? Because we heard Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said Alif Lam Mim here and said Alam in the second surah. So if you just read Quran without good teacher, without listener to Quran, without tajweed, you will say Alam both or Alif Lam Mim with both. But we should just stop here and read it individual letter, and the second position we just read Alam. It depends on how we just heard and listened to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ when he recited the Quran. Also, a good teacher will just give you a good technique method according to our smartness, our age, so according to our character. So a good teacher, it's very, very important. Here there's a mistake happen. Sometimes a parent go to the sheikh or the teacher and say, I give you a good permission to just beat my child, to just deal with him harshly, to force him to memorize the Quran. It's not allowed. It's very, very wrong to follow that. Because if a teacher just beat a child and forced him to memorize the Quran and treat with him harshly, that the child just will associate memorizing Quran and the Quran with a fear. It's not allowed. A good teacher should be kind, very kind with a child when he just teach him Quran, and also just deal him kindly and encourage him and give him advice. I remember vividly when just a parent asked me to teach his daughter grammar in Arabic. Once just I start the first class with a student, she told me, I don't like Nahu, I don't like grammar in Arabic. I asked her, what is the problem with you? I understand immediately there is a bad experience with a teacher, because a good teacher just can make the student love or hate a subject. I believe that. So she told me that because there is a teacher was teaching us grammar in different way, in bad way, just harshly, and if anyone just had any mistakes, he will shout it and say, you will not understand I'm saying, try to study very well, try to understand me, it's not difficult, you are so stupid, or something like this. It depends on the character of teacher, to be honest. So I absolutely understand there is a bad experience with the teacher. The first thing I start to just make her love the subject, love the grammar, and ask it here. You can imagine just the grammar like a friend or a guest. We just should to know this character of the person and talk to him and just start to love with her. Step by step, I just give her something about grammar. So now, mashallah, she could understand a big part of Nahw, grammar, and mashallah, she could just make i'rab. I'm very happy for that, for her absolutely, and for me, because I could just make her change his background to the subject. So a good teacher, it's very, very important. So I think it's the right time to tell you, if you want to just memorize the Quran probably, or just help your child to memorize it, if you want to learn how to speak Arabic, understand Arabic, okay, to help you to understand Quran, you are in the right place. We are here to help you and support you and to make your dream come true. So please don't hesitate to connect us in this number in WhatsApp, and we'll just give you the best course to help you to memorize the Quran or learn Arabic as you want. So please don't hesitate and join us. Number 4, during your journey memorize the Quran, you should just encourage yourself. What does it mean? Which means if you just memorize a chapter in the Quran, we should just reward yourself to just buy something you love, to make a video for you when you recite the Quran, to share the achievement with your friends, and people just will be happy for you. Encouragement, it's very, very important when you start any journey in your life. The same thing if you just have a child and he memorize or she memorize the Quran, you should just encourage him just listen to the reward of the Quran with your child. child and just you can just bring him to the masjid and the competition of the Quran. You can also just make a party for your child when just memorize a portion or just a part in the Quran, and make a video and share that with your friends. You should just encourage him, because learning Quran, or just you can say memorizing Quran, really it's not easy. It's a difficult journey, but may Allah Almighty make this journey so easy for us and help us to memorize the Quran perfectly. So encouragement, I see it's very, very important. For me, when just my niece or my nephew memorize a chapter of the Quran, I promise him or her, if you just memorize this part of the Quran or this juz, I will make a big party for you in our house, and just make a cake and invite our relatives and some of neighbors and his and her friends, okay, and just start to celebrate and make a video and then share it in YouTube. So inshallah, after Ramadan we will have a big party, because my niece just memorized 2 juz. Inshallah, I will share the video with you. I'm just talking about it because a child get bored when just memorize the Quran or just learn anything, because it's not easy journey, as I said. So we need just to encourage him from time to time with a lot of things. If just your child asks you to buy something, you said, I will not do it until you memorize the surah or memorize this chapter, this juz. I promise you I will do it. If you really follow this trick, there's something important here. You will just instill a joy and happiness in your child with the Quran. For example, if you memorize a chapter of the Quran, I will give you something important, you really love it, which means I will just reach the happiness if I just memorize the Quran. The memorizing Quran and learn Quran will associate with happiness and joy. You really instill something important in the character of your child. I think the best way to make him memorize the Quran and review Quran from time to time. So please don't. 5. Revision. Revision, it's very, very important, especially in Quran. Your memory will just forget everything, because every day we just have a lot of things. We have a big responsibilities and just involved a lot of things in our life every day. So we need to just review Quran from time to time or daily. Prophet Muhammad advise us to review Quran daily, because Quran will just, we forgot it. It's easy to forget. So we need to review it. So let me just, when just a person memorize the Quran, he will very happy to memorize the chapter in the Quran, but when just ask him to review the Quran, just look at it, oh, I'm sorry, I don't have the courage to do it. I'm just to focus in the point, because Prophet Muhammad asked us to review Quran from time to time. Review Quran is very, very important, because Quran is so easy to forget, according to what Prophet Muhammad told us. And also we have many responsibilities every day and memorize anything. You are in the school, in the college, and you have many subjects. So will you forget Quran? So we need to review it from time to time. The problem here, people also focus in memorizing and say memorizing it's so easy for me, because when I just finish my word or just my portion of memorizing, it's so easy, I just can just move into another chapter. But what about reviewing? I can do it. If I just ask a person, how many chapters you memorize, the person just give you answer, I memorize the entire Quran, or the half of the Quran, or 10 chapters of the Quran. If you just ask him to lead people in Salat al-Taraweeh in Ramadan or any regular Salah, he will say, I can do it. I'm not confident to lead people in Salah, because he just absolutely memorize the Quran but not review Quran daily. And it's not easy to call a person Hafiz. Hafiz, which means this person can read Quran in Salah everywhere without reviewing, because absolutely he review it daily. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among people who memorize the Quran, the people of Quran, and make the journey for so easy for us to review Quran and memorize the Quran. Amen. Also, let me give you a tips here. If you want to memorize the Quran smoothly, you should have one version in the Quran. If you just have many versions, it's okay. But let me just give you something like Medina, Mushaf al-Medina, start in the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, or just the first of ayah. It will be in the beginning of the page, and at the end of the page we finish the ayah. The same thing with every page. But some version or some copies of the Quran, you can find just in end and the middle of the ayah, and just to complete the ayah in the next page. So if you memorize with the first copy and the second copy, you will just confuse about it. Where am I in the Quran? I forgot it. There is ayah or no? So really, let me just give you advice. First, I just memorize the Quran in many copies, but when I just follow the step, I just struggle a lot to just focus in Medina, Mushaf Madani. Because once you start to memorize the Quran from one copy, it's so easy for you to remember the position of the ayah, and once just you run your finger above the text of the Quran, your eyes will just memorize the position in the Quran. So you memorize the Quran by your eyes and speaking by your tongue. It makes just your memorization, it's very, very strong. So please, you should just have one version when you memorize the Quran. Any version, but just make it one, okay? It's so, inshallah. 7. Create Quranic environment. What does it mean? If you want to memorize the Quran, you should just make Quran everywhere in your life. For example, when just do exercise, listen to Quran. Even in Quran in different language and you can't understand the message, please listen the Quran daily. Listen the Quran every minute in your life. While cooking, driving, walking, making exercise, do anything, try to listen the Quran and try to understand that. If you didn't understand this, because Quran is a different language for you, and Arabic is not your mother tongue, you should also memorize the Quran, because your subconscious mind will just take some words in the Quran and just make the Quran familiar to your mind, so it will be easy for you to memorize. Let me just give you an example to prove why I'm saying. If just ask a person to read Surah Al-Kahf or to memorize Surah Al-Kahf for the first time, the person will just find he memorized Surah Al-Kahf easily. Do you know why? Do you ask yourself why Surah Al-Kahf is so easy for anyone to memorize, even is not Arab? Because we read Surah Al-Kahf every Friday. So even if you didn't understand it, just once listen the Quran or read it, even in different language, as I mentioned, subconscious mind will just absorb these words and make it so easy for you when you memorize Quran. Also, which means you need to surround yourself with people of the Quran. For example, create a relationship with people, memorize the Quran. And after internet, it's so easy to have a lot of friends around the world to memorize the Quran, and you can just assign a room in Zoom or just social media and review Quran together. It really makes your journey to the Quran so easy. May Allah help us. 8. Good time. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ make a dua for a person who just try to take advantage of the bukur in the morning, maybe after al-Fajr pray. It's the best time to just start your trade, the best time to start your studying, to memorize the Quran, to do anything in your life. But if you can do it, it's great, it's perfect, you are pleased. But if you can do it because you're a doctor or just a nurse in the hospital, you have many responsibilities. If you just in that time you can't open your eyes because you are exhausted and tired after a long and hard day, so you can just focus at that time because you are tired according to your work and responsibilities I mentioned. You can just choose the best day for you, the best time in the day for you to just have a high concentration to just start to memorize the Quran. So good time, it's very important. Good time according to what Prophet Muhammad ﷺ saying. If you didn't do it, you can just choose a good time for your memory, a good time for your health to start your journey with the Quran. The most important thing, don't stop. Number 9, put a realistic goal. Sometimes a person just will hear a lecture about the Quran or just a khutbah ceremony to just the sheikh or the imam encourage people to start the journey with the Quran, or just before Ramadan the person will shout it, I will memorize the whole Quran in 1 month, or sometimes I just memorize 2 or 3 chapters in a week. And It's very difficult. Really, it's very difficult. It's not realistic goal. If you want to achieve anything, please put in a realistic goal. Okay, for example, I'll memorize جزء عامة in 1 month, in 1 week. It depends on your time, depends your smartness, it depends your language, in Arabic in your language or not. It depends on many factors. For example, a person who memorizes جزء and forgot it, it will be easy for him to remember more than the person who just memorized it the first time in his life. It depends on the some factor as I mentioned. So putting a realistic goal, it's very, very important to achieve anything in your life. So if you want to just memorize the Quran or learn a new language, or for example, to finish your master or anything, if you just put a realistic goal, you will achieve it. If just not putting a realistic goal, your mind said, I can't do the big thing or huge thing in a short time, and you step by step start run away and stop doing it and get bored before we start. So please, if you want to achieve anything correctly, put a realistic goal. For example, I want to memorize the Quran. Okay, I have intention to do it, and I ask Allah to help me, but I will just memorize the Juz' Amma in 1 month, 2 months. It depends on many factors. As I said, step by step, I said when I finish it, I will just put a realistic goal. Let's just start with the second chapter and just go in until you finish the Quran. But to say I will finish the Quran in a short time, you absolutely destroy your plans and destroy your life and stop doing it. So please be attention to the point. It's very, very important. 10. Start as early as possible. To start memorizing Quran with your child, like for example 3, 4, 10 years old, is better than to start memorizing Quran when you get older. But here I want to say something important. If you really didn't memorize the Quran because you were not Muslim, if you didn't really memorize the Quran for many reasons, and Allah guide you to memorize it, I want to just give you glad tidings. It's never late to start. It's really never late to start. You should start. So I want to say something important here. The best time to memorize the Quran when you're a child, and the second best time to memorize the Quran now, today, not tomorrow. Really now. May Allah just make you choose the video to watch that video because you have intention to do it, because Allah want to guide you to the memorize the Quran. So it's never too late. I just heard about people just start memorizing Quran at later age, for example more than 6 years old or more than it, and Allah give him ability to do it, and just they memorize the Quran is better than a younger or better than a child. So it not depends on how old are you to start. It depends in your intention. If you really had a great intention, if you really sincerity to Allah, have a sincerity to Allah, Allah will support you to memorize the Quran any age, any time in your life, and be a good person. And we should just praise Allah and thank Allah for giving you ability and giving you just ability and the intention to just memorize the Quran. So please start it quickly. Don't stop. The best time to start it now, not tomorrow. Now I'd like to give you glad tidings. If a person just start to memorize the Quran and he just die, Allah will just accept it from him and put that person among the people who memorize the entire Quran, because that person who started the journey, but there is something just blocked him. So Allah will forgive us. These are practical videos, really helped me a lot when I was memorizing Quran, so I'd like to share that with you. If you like this kind of video, please don't forget to give us like and share the video with a friend or someone you know just he want to memorize the Quran, to help him, and Allah will just give you a reward for that. And also don't forget to subscribe my channel to more upcoming content. Thank you so much. May Allah bless you. Assalamu alaikum.